Positioning is easily the most overlooked fundamental in Valorant. Back when Valorant was first released in June of 2020, I got placed into a pretty respectable rank of Silver 2. Climbing from Silver 2 to my ultimate peak of Immortal 3 was extremely difficult, but if I knew then what I know now, I'm certain I could have done it in a third of the time. After playing Valorant for over 4,000 hours, I realized something. Positioning is way more important than aim. And I think once you understand why, you will instantly become a much more confident player. Let's take two players at random. The first has insane aim, and the second just has average aim. Obviously, in a 50-50 fight, the first player would win. I'm not sure if you would still call it a 50-50, but that is reality. These odds change significantly based on each player's positioning. Take this angle for example. Put the second player here and all of a sudden he's got an 80% chance of winning the fight. There are countless positions just like this one inside of Valorant. And I wish positioning was just that simple, play the best spots and rank up 1,000 times. But in reality, it's more about being in the right place at the right time. I found out the hard way that there are some things that you should be thinking about each time you choose a position. What utility does the enemy have? Does the enemy expect me? Can I fall back or reposition if necessary? Is my team close enough to trade me or provide support? Who has numbers advantage? The point is, a good position is determined by a massive amount of variables. My goal in the next few minutes here is to teach you how to improve positioning on the fly. No more getting one-tapped, instantly killed, and maybe even start fragging out on those players with better aim than you. Now, I'm basically just going to teach you guys what goes through my head when I'm choosing a position, just the different things you should think about, and just give you a gist of what goes into choosing a good position and how different in-game variables and situations may change what you would consider a good position in a matter of seconds. So starting things off with this first position that I already talked about earlier, this is a good angle because if you're crouched down over here, they actually can't see you from this angle over here. So you're isolating this gunfight. And since the players on that side are usually pre-aiming down here, it gives you a massive advantage being up here. Because this space that they can peek into is very tiny, so it's super easy to hit your shots. If they double peek you, same thing, you can potentially even get a collateral. And since they're usually pre-aiming down here, it gives you a massive advantage because their crosshair placement is messed up and they have to flick up to you in order to land a shot. So you're isolating the gunfight. Players usually don't use utility on this angle. And you're on an off angle, so they're not expecting you here usually. If you played this every round, it would be a different story. But play it one time and you can definitely catch your opponents off guard. After you get your pick here, you can then contest this angle and they will often not expect you. It is a headshot angle, and since they can't see you originally, you're kind of coming out of nowhere on their screen. So this angle is very, very strong. But, you know, if you play this a lot of times, it's not going to be as good because they may, for one, start pre-aim you from down here. And now instantly it's way worse because you have to be crouched on the angle. So if they're expecting you, pre-aim you, they can land an instant headshot. Of course, if they start doing that, you could just play down here and you could probably throw them off just the same way. But if someone's smart, they might have a flash, and instead of dry peeking the angle, maybe they blind it before they peek out. And now all of a sudden, if you're on this side, you have no chance. So that's why it's important to be unpredictable with your angles. And if you're catching people off guard, you're going to be able to win most of those dry 50-50 engagements. Obviously, when utility comes into play, things change a little bit. You want to take into consideration what utility the enemy has that they will likely use on your angles. Do they even have any utility left to clear out the position you're trying to play? And just things like that. So if I'm trying to hold this off angle right here, it can be pretty good because I could either be up on top or down below. So they would have to choose on the attacker side, they'd have to choose which angle they want to pre-aim. So playing on top is usually pretty strong because it's harder to pre-aim it. From here, we want to be worried about flashes. Maybe they have Sky Flash, Phoenix Flash. If we're standing in the open here and we're not worried about a flash, and it's the start of the round, they could just flash around this corner. All of a sudden I have nowhere to go and I'm instantly dead. So it becomes a bad position simply because they have flashes available. If they have no flashes, it's a great position. On this side, they'd have to jump over to see you. You could hear them. Maybe you have someone over here helping you out. And that's the importance of having your team around you as well. If they don't have any flashes on their team at all, you could play this position as well. But other things you want to worry about, like maybe you have an operator and you're playing from heaven and you're holding this angle right here. If they peek you dry, like you're going to win, like it's a good position. But then if you consider getting flashed, maybe they have a raise nade, you get blinded into this corner, they're going to raise nade you. You have to have utility to get out. So the agent you're playing plays a big impact on what positions are viable as well. Another thing, if you're opping here, are they going to smoke you out? If they're going to smoke this angle, all of a sudden my op becomes useless because I have to peek out of the smoke to contest these guys. And now I have to worry about all of these different angles, which is just extremely dangerous. Coming out this side would be a little bit better positioning because I don't have to worry about the first angle, but I'm still worried about this, depending on how far the enemies are up. So the timings are important as well. If I get smoked off and I know for a fact the enemies haven't crossed this point, I can still come out of the smoke and just pre-aim up top, and then I can shift over here and maybe I can hold the off angle when they're running out sight. And then my only risk is over here, but they can't shoot me while they're in the air. So I can get a good off angle on these guys. If I see someone jump over, I can go for the fight. If they don't fight me, I can drop down and play with my team for a retake. So depending on your position, you set yourself up for different routes you can take to either get off angles, or if the off angle is not going to work out, maybe they spotted you out with your utility, maybe they silver droned you, you give yourself opportunities to escape to play your life later in the round. Because maybe your position was good, but the enemy made a lot of good decisions to counteract your position. And so you want to make sure you have different routes you can use to escape to survive longer. And if you're able to survive longer into the round, you're able to maximize your impact. Maybe you missed your first shot. Oh, but I was able to fall back over here, reposition, and then maybe I'm playing the off angle over here now. Oh, but they smoked me off? Well, maybe I have the timing to come out here, hold this, get one, and then fall back in the smoke and wait for my team. And it depends on the weapon you're using too. Maybe I wouldn't go for this play with a operator, but maybe I would with a vandal. And these are just little details that it's important to think about. Another thing to consider is if you're playing mid right here, walking up here is very strong, and if you can get into this angle without them finding you, it's very powerful. But you have to worry about a few things. If they have a silver dart and they shoot it up here, well, even if you break it, they're going to know you're up here. And since this wall is paper thin, they can just spam you and kill you before you can get out. Unless maybe you have like a smoke. Maybe you have like 2 smokes and a teleport. And now you can make it work, even though the position fell to pieces. But the problem is that you had to use all of your utility, so it wasn't a great position in the first place. So in reality, this is a good play if they don't have utility to scout you out, or maybe you just don't expect them to use it. And you can go for a gamble play, which is good sometimes.